Okay, hello again rail fans, and it's another Train Guy stream. This time we're looking at the DB155, the electric container as it's sometimes known, and we'll be doing two different things. We'll be running it from Kreuztal to Hagen, pulling an empty coal train, and then we'll pick up a mixed goods service and take it further west along the line towards Wuppertal. Due apologies for absolutely massacring the pronunciation there. So they'll be slightly different each one. The coal train that we're pulling, although it's empty, is still nonetheless, the brakes, the timers, all that kind of crap are all still set up for PZB mode U. So that's what we'll be running on the first half, and then the second section will be done slightly faster, mode M. And sadly, they've not linked the lines together, so we can't do a true run from one end to the other. But this is as good as. So before we do anything, bit of basic setup. The headlights on. This is actually easier to do some of this if you're standing up, just because of the position of some of the switches and levers and what have you. Turn all that gubbins up. I like to have the chair quite high up in this as well. You're not under any particular time pressure here, so you've got a few minutes to faff about setting the train up. So, mode U for the coal wagons. Again, even though they're empty, they don't weigh very much. The brake timers and all that stuff are set up specifically for it. And the SEFA switch is back here as well. This is the thing I usually forget to turn off or turn on, is the driver's key. I feel like I've forgotten to do something, but I can't remember, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Okay, so we have a green signal ahead. Let's just do a quick check outside, make sure everything looks okay before we go. Lights, yeah. For some reason my wee guy always goes bald in this train. I have no idea why that happens. Right, let me just check everything else is off. You have to give it a couple of moments here for the brakes to charge. How do you tell from the gauges? You don't. It's the simple answer. You just got to sort of wait for a few minutes. A few moments rather, not a few minutes. Basically, you know it's ready when you can get it to holding the first or second notch of the power handle setting without it shorting out on you. So there's the down here, the force is slowly building up. And there we go, we're underway. I should really have my PZB speed chart somewhere near me, because I haven't used Mode U for a while. So it's always the same starting restriction, 40 kilometers, 45 kilometers now rather, for the self-check program it goes through. And that's Zifa. Very, very difficult to miss it in this train. It's not very subtle at all. Oh, and one thing I haven't changed, I do apologise, is from earlier on. I can't do metric to imperial in my head, and I've still got that signal thing turned on as well. Let's just get rid of that. Right, that's better. I know some people do prefer to keep their heads up displaying miles per hour all the time, but all the PZB speeds are in kilometres, so unless you can do the conversions really fast in your head, it is better having it switched over. Now, because we did have a green signal back there, I'm just going to go ahead and release PZB. And we'll turn the traction force selector up a bit. Usually leave it down a little till we're underway. You can increase the braking force selector as well if you like, but I'm sure I did read somewhere that they're restricted to about 75% these days. Something to do with them finding cracks in the axles or some such. And just zero the tap handle and then turn it up again. When you've been playing about with the traction force selector, it sometimes needs to just be recycled. So this little sign stuck to the dashboard here, PZB 90, it's telling you that you're restricted to 90 kilometers per hour. That refers to PZB mode U only. I think they are allowed to still run in mode M, because I have read that their maximum speed's 125, but for some reason mode U they've got an additional restriction on them. Hey Spurs Reading, good to see you, man. I'm very good, thank you. Hope you are as well. Just having a wee play around with the old 155 here. I'm going to kind of do a full run of the two Ruhr lines as best I can. Obviously I have to stop and start at halfway, well, 2/3 of the way along, but good enough. Has been quite a long time since I've been along the Kreuztal to Hagen section though, so expect mistakes. Sifa seems to go off an awful lot in this cab. Hey Tommy, welcome along man. We just started. Good to see you. You've not missed a great deal. First booby trap I need to watch out for is the speed reduction up ahead. As it's not going to be 70, it's going to be more like 50 with the PZB on. And I think the warning sign's just round here. So I learned ages ago that the best approach with this train is to be well ahead of it. And don't leave it till you absolutely have to start braking. Now you do have something like the best part of 40 seconds to get down to the prescribed speed, so you've got loads of time in hand, but the more severe you do it, the longer it takes to recover from it, and we don't want to drop too far. All the mechanical timers and stuff, they're set up for signals basically, so you hit it at speed and release it at around 60, 65, you should level out at around 40, which is what you want for a signalling situation, not so much for a speed limit change though. So we just get a little step ahead of it. Seems like we're going too slowly for too long, but you lose less time doing it this way. And then once we're clear of the 1000 Hz monitoring, we can just release ourselves. We've seen a green signal. We know that the next signal is a good 3 kilometres away, so we can say with absolute certainty we're not going to run into a magnet in the next 700 metres, which I think is the requirement for a manual deactivation. Do I think the 155 is harder to drive? Absolutely. You need to be just a few seconds further ahead with this than with any other train, and you don't have as much of a cushion if you do have an oh shit moment. In the very unique way that you deliver the power as well, it's more disorientating than you would think. Even once you do wrap your head around the fact it is still basically just a lever, albeit a rotary one rather than a handle type. I do think it has a certain charm to it, though. It's a very functional looking machine. The thing with the 155, it has all the complicated stuff like PZB and none of the convenient stuff like AFB. So just pick it up a little bit, but bearing in mind that we can't go above 90. PZB will let us do it, but okay, so that one's not on. That magnet gets me every sodden time, because sometimes it's on and sometimes it's not. Thing is, the 155 is actually probably my favourite. I drive it a lot off the stream. If you are driving the coal trains, doing the westbound towards Hagen is definitely the one to try first, because they're empty, so it is much more responsive than the full one. The full one I'd have been riding the brakes pretty hard, even just to shed 10k there. Although if you're asking about the hardest train to drive, the one I make the most mistakes in is probably actually the Talent 2. But the reason for that is that Tempomat is just different enough from AFB to confuse me when I'm really used to using AFB. And the mistakes are usually entirely of my own making, rather than anything that the train did. Not actually driven the Talent 2 for a while. My one complaint about this cab is that all my usual hiding places for the cursor have actually got click spots on them. So I end up with it kind of sitting in the middle of the screen somewhere. Very, very minor complaint though. Yeah, I really like the sort of the cross, well, the crossplay, I guess you could call it, that they've got between their trains and their routes. It all feels very integrated. I like it. It's a shame that they've not done the same with certainly Transpennine and Tees Valley. I can understand with the Great Western because it's effectively a completely different era, but well, who knows what we'll get next. They'll maybe look at that for the future. Alright, ramp it up a bit now. All the various information for the loady type guys here. I'm going to calculate. I think they use a lot of that information when they're figuring out what to set the brake timers and stuff to on these. All incredibly simplified for the purposes of this game, obviously. Yeah, I think the Talent runs certainly on the western section, in the red livery. I think the Regioban livery, or the S-Bahn red. In fact, I think they're all painted red now, the silver ones, because that's set back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think the rapid transit that we've got. All of these routes, I think, are set in the recent past. Very little. The Caltrain stuff and the Great Western stuff are the only, and the Northeast Corridor are the only true contemporary ones that I'm aware of. So I'm just going a little faster than I want to just now. I'll just wind that in. PZB won't kick up a fuss till I touch 105, but as I mentioned at the top of the stream, there's an additional restriction on the 155 because they're knackered and old. Crossroutes, yeah, they've not completely discounted that, I don't think, but my understanding is the problem with doing it is that they've changed the way that the game actually works under the hood so much that getting Ruhr ignored and Ryan or Rosten to talk to each other properly would be something of a challenge. So all those little improvements they make, it would appear, have come at a price, but I'll take it. We'll be doing the Rhine-Ruhr-Osten section in modem, so we will be able to run up to 120k parts. So much SIFA. I'm sure it goes off more frequently in this cab than it does in any of the others. I don't like not being able to see in front of me. Well, the thing with the PlayStation 5 is it's supposedly going to be backwards compatible. I'd be amazed if it wasn't, quite honestly. So that being the case, they've got no real urgent need to think about upgrading the engine or overhauling it all specifically for the PS5. That could be done more gradually over time, I think. Maybe Train Sim 2022 will get a... let me just make sure that that doesn't need an acknowledgement. Flashing green sometimes does need to be acknowledged. Usually if it's bringing you down to under 100 from over 100, but I'm kind of at the moment at the mindset of if in doubt, press the button. So I'm going to start reducing the speed for the next speed reduction now, because we are going down a bit of a slope. There goes the sound in the tunnel. I got thrown slightly by my sound killing itself off in the tunnel there, and I left the brakes on for a bit longer than I maybe wanted to. I hate that sound bug. So this is not a PZB stop, this is just a Scott had the brakes on for too long thing. Get underway fairly quickly. I do need to be careful not to go over 25 now, because it's chucked me into restricted monitoring due to the stop under unrestricted. Hey Stephen, welcome mate. Yes, back to the best trains. Yeah, Yeah, I do kind of have a soft spot for these as well. These and the old 80s British lines. I'll probably do a bit on them soon as well, because I do spend, again, most of my off-stream driving is done either in the British trains or the German trains, particularly freight trains. Although I do a lot of passenger stuff on the stream, I am a freight guy by and large. So we'll just crawl through here. We've got a green ahead, so I mean there's not a problem. We simply got our hands tied. You can't release, I don't think, under 1000 Hertz monitoring, you see. If I try it, it just ignores me. Once the 1000 Hertz light goes out, on the other hand, we can get back up and running. Now, I should say for your benefit, Stephen, because you joined just as I ground to a halt on the main line, was not a PZB bust. It was the sound went off in the tunnel. And it just kind of threw me a bit. I ended up being on the brakes for a bit longer than otherwise would have been. There we go. Yeah, I was grumbling about the same thing, the infrastructure and what have you earlier on. I don't understand why even a clear signal needs to have a red light on it, if I'm being honest. It seems needlessly convoluted for relatively slow speeds, but hey, there you go. And expect the sound to go again in the tunnel. This is fucking annoying. Is all I'm hearing. The first time this happened, I thought my headset had died. And it means you do have to keep an eye on the CIFA light as well. Right, let's get some speed on. Hey Dario, welcome to the stream. Yeah, if you mean the new one, it's... I wouldn't say it's particularly better or worse than the others. I mean, the more weather effects you pile on, the more traffic there is around you, the more people there are being rendered in the station, then the heavier the load gets. It's... I don't know that I've really noticed that Ruhr Austin is particularly worse or better. To be honest, I barely notice it anymore. I've gotten that used to it happening under all circumstances. Oh, there we go again. Hey George, welcome to the stream. Always nice to see a new face that I don't recognise, or a new name that I don't recognise. Welcome, welcome. Stephen, I think they had fixed it, and it does, yeah, it does seem to be this local that it happens to me most often, and it doesn't happen in any other tunnel on any other line with other trains. Right, so there's no magnet there, so that doesn't need acknowledged. We'll just steam on through. Or electric on through, whatever you want. Ah, yes, the old overheat warning. I am frankly amazed I don't get those yet. I've still got my launch day PlayStation. I'm sure you guys can probably occasionally hear it in the background. It sounds decidedly asthmatic. Ah, yes, the Middlesbrough one. I'm sorry, mate. I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, if I'm being honest with you. I'm really forgetful of things, so I do apologise. Welcome back. Hi, Nick. Good to see you again. Twice in one day, my. There we go. Sounds popped again. Oh, fucking forgot about this, or maybe we'd have thought twice about using this train. Never mind. It could be worse, because at least none of the tunnels on this line are like Standage tunnel long. That would be painful. The fire in the trailer. Yes, I have seen the fire. I've driven past the fire. If you would like to see the fire, it is one of the scenarios. Which I did. Come on, sound, come back. We're out. I think it needs to wait for the back of the train to clear the tunnel. Yeah, there we go. The fire is one of the scenarios. I did actually consider streaming it, but then I thought, no, because the thing with the scenarios, right, is there are some really cool things in those scenarios that when you see them, you go, oh wow, that's incredible, that's really good. The problem is it's the only time you will ever see it in the game, quite often, that one specific thing. And I kind of don't want to ruin it for anybody. But the fire is mentioned in the description of one of the scenarios. So if you want to see it, dig out that scenario. And it's in the last couple of kilometres of the trip. Look out to your right and you'll see it. And it looks kind of cool. I think a lot of the things they're doing are gearing towards Steam. If you look at the diesel smoke effects and things like that, with each new diesel electric they bring out, they're getting better and better. So I think they are gradually working up towards that. And it wouldn't surprise me if the smoke and the fire were some sort of technical exercise. We'll give it full beans on the next bit, Nick. I've got it running in mode U on this stretch. Oh, for God's sake. Got it running on mode U on this stretch because that's what the coal wagons are set up for. Even when they're empty. You can probably hear my PlayStation in the background now that the sound's gone. My PlayStation substituting for the electric motor. I need to watch for a speed limit change coming up ahead as well. I find it so disorientating when it suddenly goes silent. Ah, so it was the smoke effects that did it. Interesting. I'm going to take a wee chance and let's check where the back is. Yeah, that seems to sort it. I don't like jumping to the outside camera in the tunnel because it tends to appear sort of on the other side of the wall and stuff. And that disorientates me even more. Right, start braking now. I can't remember if this change is actually guarded or not, but we're going down a fairly steep hill, so you see the braking's actually really sharp on this when the wagons are empty, so it's actually quite easy to drive. So there we go, we're already under the 55, we've already arrested the braking, and there isn't a bloody PZP magnet there, I couldn't remember. But that's fine. Yeah, my PlayStation substitutes for the fan. If you wonder what my PlayStation sounds like to me in the room, something like that. There we go. Train Sim's now being PlayStation 4 Sim. PlayStation 4 Sim on the Train Sim on the PS4. Turn them both on. I don't think there's any actual practical reason for you to turn those on. I don't think anything bad happens if you leave them, but it's a cool little effect to have on. Yeah, the steering wheel train. Yeah, that's the one. Forget how many tunnels there are on this line until you're driving a train that has a bug that hits with every tunnel. I wonder if going outside makes a difference. Oh! Oh! Oh Christ, not only did I get sound, but now it echoes in there. Never used to. Yeah, I think they cheaped out on the thermal paste. Oh, and there it is again. God damn it. Happily won't be an issue on the next section. Remember the original control pads as well, the ones that I got with the one I got with my machine. The rubber on the sticks was worn off, started coming off within a matter of weeks, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's the no sound bug. It seems to just be the 155, and I'd forgotten all about it. Can't remember how many more tunnels there are. I think most of them are on the eastern half of the line, are they not? Oh, another tunnel around this corner, I think. Yeah, there it goes. Wonder if changing the camera does anything. No, see, it still works outside. Well, there we go. And then it starts to die again. You know. Okay, note to self, no more 155s on here when I'm streaming, because it's just crap when that happens. Doesn't do it on the single tunnel on main Spessart, I don't think. And you don't go through any tunnels on the main line on Ruhr. Now, I have got a vague memory of a booby trap down here somewhere for the PZB. Speed limit change or something that sneaks right up on you. The containers being loaded on, I think, is Rhein-Ruhr-Ost. Is the new one? This is one of the really old ones. And I have to make a confession, for all the time I've spent with this game, I've never really spent a lot of time exploring what's away from the line. I know that some people have walked all the way up the branch line to the power station down here and things like that. I've never really felt the urge to do that. But yeah, I know there is one where you can watch the containers. I think, does Tees Valley not have something like that? Like, you can't even see it because it's happening away over somewhere that none of the services actually go. Oh, I'm actually speeding out for the restrictions placed on this. The donkey in someone's garden. I did not know that. I need to have a look for that one day. That's good, I like that. A donkey, jeez. Oh. Getting towards the Hagen line, Hagen end of the line as well. I have to start thinking ahead a wee bit to the bit where the line splits. We go off around a big loop to the north of the passenger line to take us into Hagen Yard. And then the next section coming out of Hagen Yard, I've got one picked where we'll be using that funny little non-visual signal thing again. Because I think it's quite cool. Little touches like that help me forgive some of the bugs and glitches going on elsewhere. I need to have I'll keep an eye out for that. Things like that really do amuse me far more than they should. Makes you wonder what else they've hidden away in here. That'd be cool, man, if we could find something that got Train Sim World featured in an episode of the Easter Egg Hunter or something stupid like that. So I think it's about 4 or 5 kilometres from Hagen before the line splits. Ivor, right, I'll keep an eye out for that the next time I'm going through there. I haven't played the Great Western for a while, actually. Loved that route. Played the shit out of it when they first got the thing. Alright, because it was the only one that worked properly apart from anything else, but... give a toss what they call it these days, the 125, that's what I'm calling it. That's always going to have a soft spot for the 125. Class 43 miles. Yeah, it would be nice to see them extending routes in the future, make them a bit longer. Although I think there is a place for it, because you've just made me rethink a comment I made earlier about Ruhr Austin. One of the things I did earlier on today, we were talking about that, and what I said to the length of it was that, well, it's quite nice having some routes that can be run in under half an hour, 40 minutes, for when you don't have a lot of time. I'd forgotten all about GWR. The 125 services are just perfect if you've only got... You want to squeeze a quick run in before you go off to work or something like that. It's... wouldn't complain to have the option of going a bit further on it, but... It has a niche that it fills, I think. Be honest with you, I mean, I remember driving almost the full length of the East Coast main line in 125s back on the old MSTS back in the day. They're so bloody easy to control at high speed that it actually, by the sort of the halfway through the second hour, you're beginning to think, why am I doing this? I don't get paid to do this, why am I doing this? And again, I'm just going a little faster than I want to. Again, I'm just mindful of the 90 kilometre an hour limit imposed on these machines when they're running in mode U. That's what the little sign on the desk there is to remind you. But they are allowed to use mode M. It must just be a particular restriction to do with the weights and things like that. Tell you what was a good route as well that they could have done was it was the West Coast line going out to, went all the way out to Birmingham. Had the full run between whichever the London stations it was out to Birmingham. It was about an hour long, hour and a bit long. And it had the Pendolinos on it, but they were painted up because they didn't want to pay for. They spent all the money licensing the trains, so they painted them up in the old intercity colours, so they didn't have to pay a licence fee for them, and they looked absolutely awesome in the old black, white, and yellow intercity colours. Now that would be cool if they did a. Imagine that, do the East Coast Main Line, late 80s, give us one or two new trains and give us some reskins for the 125 and the 47. But now I'm heading off into the realms of pure fantasy probably. or at least stuff we won't see till the PC Brigade get their hands on the crating kits. Euston might have been. Honestly, can't remember, man. It's over 10 years since I last fired it up. Although I think I've still got the hard drive kicking about somewhere. See, I'm going to go digging for that hard drive now. What else did I have on that? I had Brighton to... I can't remember where the line ended. It was the south coast line. It went out beyond Bognor and ended up... and that is gone. So many brilliant British lines though for that game. Okay, so let's just start reducing now. So you've got 40 seconds from passing the signal to hit 55, so it's dead easy with nothing in the wagons. In fact, we can start letting the brakes out about now. And we'll still be okay. See, that's what I mean about the timers and things, the mechanical equipment on the brakes. It's timed to level you out roughly at 40 kilometers per hour, so that when you hit signals and things like that, it's nice and straightforward. So somebody asked me earlier on if I could have any stretch of line, what would I want to see them do? My number one answer is still Japanese bullet trains. I'd love to see those. What about you guys? If you guys could have one route, length not an issue. Dovetail just said, yeah, we'll do it. What would you guys want? Yeah, the German trains, I didn't like them at first either, I have to be honest. That'll come as a bit of a shock to regulars on this stream, given that they're all a bloody drive sometimes. It took me ages to work them out, man. And then they just kind of clicked, and now I can't put them down because they're kind of fun. Right, that didn't need an acknowledgement. Penzance to Aberdeen, oh blimey. GNER, yeah, that's... So, yeah, the East Coast Main Line, basically, that's a popular one. Penzance to Aberdeen would be a good one, though. Coming up the West Coast and then across. There's so many different routes all rolled into one, that one. Can you even do it on one train? The Trans-Siberian, now there's a good shout. There's bound to be some really interesting parts of the Trans-Siberian. I mean, that place is fucking huge. It's got mountains and tundras, and there's even deserts in bit of it, for Christ's sake. There's loads and loads of different stuff in Siberia. That could be alright. Somebody who's got Facebook, get onto Dovetail's page right now and tell them that, in fact. That needs to be a thing. Norway, yeah, good shout, Norway. There's a very good channel on YouTube, Hindu Cowgirl it's called. Don't ask, I don't know. But it's a Norwegian train driver who takes a GoPro everywhere that they go. And there's some absolutely incredible videos on that channel. Orient Express, yeah, that would be a good shout. Did that in the original MSTS, driving the old Goldorf steam engines. That was, oh, that was really good. I loved that. Fuck, I'm going to dig my copy of MSTS out. I don't know if I'll even get it to run on any of the computers kicking about, but... What was the other one that came with Train Sim? The Settling Carlisle run. There was a stretch of line between Carlisle and, well, Settle, obviously. And it was bizarre because it was a period line, it was a historical line. And they were running... they were running LNER trains on the London, Midland and Scottish Railway, which would never have happened. Because it was the Flying Scotsman. Oh, I've left the brakes on too long just to set wee shade there, bugger. Hopefully being on a downhill will mitigate the damage. And then there was a couple of Japanese routes as well for some reason. Train sims were massive in Japan at the time though. You could play them in arcades and everything back then, over there. And they had this weird little tourist thing. It was more like a bus on rails that went away up some mountain. And then there was another one that was like basically just a commuter train through the streets of Kyoto, I think it was, or Tokyo or something like that. I still think Trans-Siberian's the best answer we've had though, because that's the first time I've seen anybody suggest that when I've seen this question asked. And it's a blindingly obvious one, really. Right, so we can pick it up a little bit for the next short stretch of track here. We just need to wait for the back of the train to clear the points, and then we'll pull into Hagen. We'll switch over to Ruhr Osten, and pull a fast freight out to Wuppertal. Yeah, I do like period lines. For all that, I think we've got enough of the high-tech trains with all the German lines. I do think that there's so much they could do. They could get steam running, man. That opens up a whole new world of possibilities as well. I mean, I think their biggest problem when they finally crack rendering steam engines is going to be choosing which to do first. So, just in case, because there was a magnet next to the track there. '50s would be cool. There was another one that I had for Train Sim, was the Cambrian Coast or something it was called. And it was set in the 1950s during the transition from steam to diesel. So you had a steam locomotive for doing the local goods service, and you had a DMU that was even older than the 101 we play with in this. That crashed all the time. I don't think I ever got to the end of it because it used to just crash all the time. I think bugs are like just a permanent feature of every train simulator. I settled to Carlisle. I mean, that one always gets mentioned, but then settled to Carlisle, if you're going to keep it accurate, you've instantly ruled out having the Mallard or the Flying Scotsman or anything like that on it, because those were East Coast engines. It's a tricky one because all these great engines, all these icons, they all ran for different companies. That one shouldn't need an acknowledgement, but I'm pressing acknowledge for literally everything now because I'm only half paying attention to it. There was a great little diesel add-on as well for Settled to Carlisle that updated it to a sort of a pseudo 1980s thing, although every train on it was I think it was a class 50 maybe. Now I'm going to just cut my speed a little further because there might be a 500 hertz magnet in the near future. .2 kilometres ain't as far as you think. Now this one is not as demanding as the newer routes where you don't have to stop within a sort of a very narrow 5 metre window or so. Ah, the APT, ha. You know, it's often said that the biggest problem that APT had was that when they did one of the first publicity runs, they got the journalists really pissed the night before, then gave them a fried breakfast before they took them on it, and then they drove it at high speed, tilting and rocking around. You can imagine how that ended. So all these journalists thought the bastards did it on purpose and gave it an absolute hammering in the press. The really frustrating thing about the APT is that the Italians proved little more than a decade later that with a bit of investment and a bit of smart thinking, it would have worked. Because them Pendolinos are based almost entirely at their heart on what was started by the BREL engineers way back in the late 60s. When you consider what resources those guys had, or more accurately didn't have, it's an absolutely amazing feat that they even got the thing onto the rails. Never mind turn the whole of the British press corps against them. I think their biggest problem was that computer technology wasn't up to it. It had to be purely mechanical, and it just wasn't flexible enough for every eventuality. Right, we better slam these on, otherwise I'm going to overshoot, and that would be a bit of a pisser. Right. So that's the first part. So 12:10 we've arrived, and what we'll do is very often you'd be dropping a train off here and hooking up to something else for another task in any rate. So that's effectively what we're going to be emulating. So we'll go back to the menu from there. This will only take a wee moment. There's another line that could link up the Long Island and the North East Corridor. It's just a shame that the NEC is absolutely rubbish. Okay, so straight into the timetable. We'll just let me set the conditions to be the same. The 155, come on. And I've done this one before, but I'm going to do it again, just, simply because there's a very limited choice of westbound freights. The speed graph takes signals into account. No, because a lot of that time on the speed graph you'll see I was way below the line speed. The speed graph is line speed only, I think. Do you know what? We'll have a proper look at it at the end, if I remember. See my earlier comment about yesterday's breakfast and whatnot. Remind me and I won't just skip straight past through it, because I will forget. Come on. Peninsula Corridor. Okay, so we're not quite on the same siding, I don't think. I can never remember what side yet. It's on the opposite side on the 182, and I always get confused by it, where the light switches are. Let's pop the lights on. Don't need the cab light, but we will take the gauge lights. Somebody's put my seat back down while we were away. How rude. Turn the control lights up. Oops. Don't really need the corridor lights, I suppose, at this time of day. So at this time, I'm going to leave it in mode M, because this is a lighter, faster train. And the CIFA switch. You can do those with your keyboard if you need to go back down there to switch the PZB mode regardless, but you can operate the on-off functionality with the keyboard if you got it. So this time it's an intermodal. It can be run in mode M because I've done it before. North Korean route. What do I need to do? Just let the brakes out. I think we're pretty much good to go actually. Yeah, everything's on, everything's set. Okay. So this is one of the routes. The other reason I've picked this one specifically as well is so that we take what side will it be? The easternmost exit route out of Hagen. There are two routes that freight trains take out of here to avoid going through the station. One of them's got conventional signals that you'll be used to, and the other one's got a new type of signal to Train Sim World. One that we've not used before. This is one of only two routes, I think, two services that take the easternmost of the exits. Right, of course that was just Yeah, it was a distant, but it's a distant repeater, so it's not needing an acknowledgement. Yeah, Africa or South America, something that has not been done before. I mean, I guess the problem is they don't know how well it'll sell. They know if they make a BR one, they'll sell bucket loads of them. They know if they make a Deutsche Bahn one, they'll make bucket loads, they'll sell loads of them. I guess it's just convincing them to take a punt on something different. So that distant signal that we passed is for a signal that you can't actually see up ahead. For anybody who didn't see me do this the other day, I'll point it out as we go past. And it's a little bit sharpish. There we go. You'll see that board there telling you need to acknowledge PZB, even though there isn't actually a signal. And what it's warning you though is that you are under 1000 Hz monitoring, which means there will be a 500 Hz magnet up ahead. All will become clear. Okay, George, thanks for joining tonight. It's good to see you again, and we'll hopefully see you again. We can reminisce somewhere about how much better trains were in the old days. So quite a distance to go down to this 500 Hz magnet. So just down here on the left, I'm looking for, it's still a good 900 metres away actually. I'm just trying not to let the train roll away too much on the downhill slope here. Of course I've changed my braking force and my traction selector as well, haven't I? We'll adjust those when we stop. So we're looking for the signal gantry that covers the main line there. That's going to be our cue to stop alongside or just ahead of. And there it is coming into view. I think we're about to be passed by something on the right as well, maybe. Oh, there goes an S-Bahn train. So here up ahead on the left, we're looking for the signpost opposite the gantry. And it starts to, doesn't always show up brilliantly until you're almost on top of it has to be said. We're within 20 metres, 25 metres, that should be enough. And just before I do anything else, I am going to adjust the braking force. And I'll change that again once we get out on the line. So, now that we've stopped, we need to contact the signaller. So proceed as signals indicate. In other words, we're alright. But what we do need to do as we pass this board is make sure we've got the PZB override engaged, so as not to get stopped by the magnet. It doesn't run on Ruhr, it only runs as far as Hagen from the... Oh, we're rolling back. There we go. So make sure you've got the button pressed. Now you'll notice above the HUD on the bottom right there, the Bethel 40 light has come on. That means that we've successfully crossed the magnet. We can let go of it. And there's Zifa coming on. There is a name for that signal type. I forget what it's actually called. It's a subsidiary signal for rarely used routes that don't require a fully telegraphed one. And basically, you're just phoning the signal box to say, "Can I go past it?" And they'll tell you yeah or nay. They always tell you yeah in this case. We should see some 422s when we get to the other end of the line. They're on a completely separate stretch track for this section. Initially they go down their own route, and then about 2/3 of the way along they rejoin with us. So signal ahead is at proceed at reduced speed, nothing else posted, so assume it's 40 kilometers per hour. For our purposes, because I've not seen any other information. And we'll be going across a set of points up ahead. Busing the other day. Yeah, it's another one of these games. Is it perfect? No. Is it good enough for me? Aye. And I think there's 2 or 3 that have got that now, so there is a distinct possibility that there will be a something maybe in the works for that, but it really depends if I can find the time to build up something to start from, because I've already sunk quite a bit of time into it on my main account. That's so many games in so little time. But yeah, definitely a lot deeper in some ways than this is. That's for sure. So we just need to get over onto the correct line. Strange being on the left hand side in this thing. We'll get over onto the correct side, and then we can run it right up to 120 or so. I don't think that needs one. No, it shouldn't. Main signals generally don't need an acknowledgement. I'm just being stupidly overcautious because I've been away for the game for so long. In fact, we had a clear distance, so I think I might even just kill the PZB now. Let's turn the traction force selector up. Just give it a moment for the rear of the train to clear the... Yeah, it's the little touches, man. Although I have to admit, I switched the cashier off after a few days because that got tiring. Right, now we're motoring. So about 120 is the upper sensible speed to do with modem. You can do up to 124, but if you touch 125, boom, you'll be coming to a halt. So it is a much shorter run, as you can see, but that's because there's effectively two routes running in parallel here. The S-Bahn trains are actually off to our left somewhere just now, I think. Turn the fans on, seeing as we're hammering it. Really concentrating on the signals coming up. They're sometimes difficult to pick out against the autumn colours. So many times I've thought, oh, that's a yellow, and then it's been, no, it's not, it's a tree. What I have noticed on this this route is popping of trains is much worse than I've seen it before. I've had trains popping literally as I'm going by them. Yeah, there we go. Just as I say that, a train appears at a perfectly normal distance and behaves as it should. Excellent. Bob Ross. Is he even still kicking about? I don't know. I vaguely remember him. I know what you're talking about. This feels unnaturally fast for this machine. Oh, I didn't know that. He wasn't that old, surely? Here we go, up a big hill again, so it's starting to struggle a bit. A lot of gradients on this route, gradient changes rather, to make it quite interesting. Christ, no, not old at all. And onto a big downhill, so get ready on your brakes before you even go onto it. You can actually see the gradient changes, they're so severe. And then just give yourself a little bit of speed in your pocket down here, a little bit of cushion, so that if you do come across that, a slow dune sun, then there we go, there was a popping train. That was pretty terrible, that pop-in. In case you're wondering what the bright orange G that flicked on and off there was, I forget what it actually stands for, but it basically stands for going too fast. It's warning me that my acceleration is going to... Sorry, I'm just seeing lots of coloured lights up ahead, trying to figure out what track they're for. It's basically warning me that I'm about to bust the limit, I think. I've seen it pop on a couple of times down here. So somewhere on the right you should see the monorail type thing somewhere shortly. That follows the line for a few K. I think that might be the freight yard that George was asking about earlier on. It could well be the one where you can watch them loading up. I will investigate that at some point. So there's the S-Bahns joined back with us already. Takes you a slightly longer to get along here in an S-Bahn train. And another big downhill, so braking action already. We got the monorail yet? I think that the terminal for it's just down here somewhere. There's a 442 off to the left. There's the monorail there. Well, this is going to end in disaster, but we'll do it anyway. Oh, there we go, there's the cable cars there. Yeah, sorry, I really need to be able to see what's going on in the cab. But yeah, the monorail is kind of a cool little touch there it is again. And yeah, they are moving, you can't really see it very well at the speeds we're doing. I have to be honest, I've not even looked to see if the what the manual has in it in terms of new stuff. I think between it's probably worth having just for the new signal debris up at Hagen. I would have known about that the first time if I'd read the manual, I feel, instead of discovering it by getting caught out by it. Not much point in trying to go any faster. No, that one didn't need an acknowledge either. Ooh, a new page about PZB. I'll need to have a look at that. Okay, so we're actually being slowed down to 40, and we do need to acknowledge that signal as well because of the speed limit advisory on it. Even though it's all green, you're acknowledging the speed limit change there. And we'll just make sure we're completely compliant as well. So there's the cable car. It looks a bit more obvious that it's moving now, that we're not thundering along at silly speeds. And we're getting an expect stop, so we can pass that going quicker than this, but we'll take the chances. That's one of those funny K signals that, even though it's got a barber pole suggesting it's a main, can sometimes be acting in a way that needs an acknowledgement. I've not totally figured those out after all this time, so I just acknowledge them anyway. There's some like that at the end of one end of main Spessart band's got signals like that always catch me out. I think the far end, I think Finnentrop's got something like that as well. We'll just roll in past it. Yes, is that an S9 maybe? It's a shorter unit. If it's not the full, is that a full unit? The shorter 4 cars, you just run them back and forward on a very short stretch of line. They're a shuttle service just between the Wuppertal stations. It's like a 5 or 10 minute trip, really. And the longer ones are the cars that go all the way up to the far end. So acknowledging the speed reduction thing there again as we go past. I think that's magnets for the speed limit change, not for the distance signal. Maybe I should look at the new page of the manual though. Now this is a bit of a pain in the ass because you have to stop in a really narrow window of about 10 metres or so. The petrol train feels incredibly light. I don't know if it's empties or not, but compared to the ones that you pull on MSB, that feels incredibly light on here. And I think we're going to draw up just a little bit shorter than it wants us to, so we'll just let them out again. There we go. No, it wants me to be even closer. I mean, it wants you to be ridiculously close. There we are. Right. I'm curious to see if the... Right, so the speed line doesn't reflect the signalling state because I was... Does it? Ah, because those were line speeds I was doing towards the end, but early on I was under that signal a lot of the time. Well, I'm not actually sure. It's way too late at night for me to be trying to do any type of analytical exercise though, to be fair. So that's just, geez, when you exceed the speed for your selected speed. Yeah, but I hadn't actually gone over the... I was over 120 when it came on, but I've been over that before and never popped that. How odd. I have to admit, I was just interpreting what it had done to me the last couple of times down there. I thought it was just sort of trying to save me from myself kind of thing. But, yeah, very interesting. I will definitely need to have a look at the new and improved PZB manual. That's a thing. Let me just scribble that down. In fact, there's a new manual available because, again, I forget. I'm not doing it at this time of night. Magic. So there we go. I've learned something new as well. Perfect. So that's that was more or less the full run of the Ruhr routes as they are to us just now. Probably a good time for me to call it, and a good place. I enjoyed that. That was fun. It's the first time I've done the two of them together like that. Might see if there's some more that can be wrung out of that going the other way at some point. And a couple of other things that I might like to visit as well. Been a while since we've had any BR action as well, so might do something like that in the coming week or so. So thanks very much as always, guys. It's been a pleasure, and I will hopefully see you guys again soon. Good night.